Gold is written by Grace Nichols, and the poem is in past tense, which enables the sound of storytelling, and this story brings up imperialism and the silencing of people of color in history, specifically the people in the Caribbean, which can be noticed by reference to El Dorado, which is thought to be in the Caribbean area, and to Taino, which is an Arawak people who are indigenous people from the Caribbean. Since the poet is from Guyana and does share the Caribbean culture, there's a high possibility that she is a speaker in the poem. The poem collection as a whole brings up imperialism, racism, as well as internalized slavery and the complexity of acclimating to a new country and culture. This poem acts as an introduction to the consequences of racism and imperialism on people of color by bringing forth the historical background. The poem adds context to the following poems, like Taint and Waterpot, and thus giving the reader a deeper understanding of what, where, who, and why. The aim of the poem is to speak out about the effects of imperialism and the silencing of people of color throughout history. The poem in itself aids to eradicate how they were silenced, as the story is actually told in the poem. The title of the poem connects with the first to the third stanza, where gold is mentioned or referenced to in a total of 15 times. In the first stanza, the repetition and alliteration of gold illustrates the obsession the people the speaker calls they had. The alliteration and repetition along with the short verses allows the whole stanza to be read fast, thus stressing their obsession and occupation with gold. The last line evokes an image of what their obsession turned them into, which is golden monsters. And it's about there. There you have one. This image aids to illustrate their greed. In stanza 2, the poet includes a note to the reader in parentheses, and due to the immense amount of gold references, the note is ironic and therefore mocking the golden obsession. The golden imagery is further enhanced in stanza 2, where the poet mentions a king who dustens himself in a gold dust each day, as well as El Dorado, which are connected to gold, as the El Dorado myth mentioned a king who did exactly this. The myth is also named El Rey Dorado, which means the Golden King. In stanza 3, there's a change in structure as the stanza begins with an and, as if the speaker was continuing a story. They is mentioned and it relates back to stanza 1, but now they can be slightly more identified as conquistadorial is used, therefore linking they to conquistadors, which is most possibly the Spanish conquistadors who invaded the Caribbean. Specific diction is noteworthy here, as yearning, which is wanting to obtain something, is connected by rhyme to burning. Burning could mean that gold is a hot topic, pun intended, wanting something with passion, which again relates to yearning, but also that burning can be hurtful for those questioned. There is also a connection back to stanza 1, as gold smiting mouths reinforces the imagery of golden monsters. The repetition of the question here emphasizes the obsession with gold, but the repetition also connects to burning, as the repetition acts to pressure them to answer, again emphasizing how they want with a passion. So, stanza 1 to 3 builds up imagery of gold. Basically, this. And they also show the negative impact of the conquistadors who wanted this. And then in stanza 4, there's a change in time as the mention of history books relates to what happened in stanza 1 to 3. The speaker says that they were right about one thing, and thus imply that they are basically wrong about everything else. This is a way of the poet to criticize how people of color stories were not told and that we were in fact silenced. The tone in this stanza is one of resignation and bitterness, as the speaker blames himself for causing their own death. This is clearly seen in line 6 to 7, here, which has an ellipsis that further enhances the resigning tone. In stanza 5, time has passed again, and this is implied by after so many moons, which is also an alliteration. The resignation in stanza 4 has been replaced by regret and frustration here, as they want to fight out in the green arena, which is a nice rhyme. This also shows that they have a desire for revenge. Line 3 here evokes an image of iguanas. The iguana shedding skin, and with the use of grating, it implies that it is itching, irritating, and bothering. And this then implies that the people who were, or the people of Caribbean, still regret that they caused their own death, basically. Then you have line 45 implied that the fight before wasn't a fair one, as they, the conquistadors, were armed with horses and cannons. And here the alliteration of cowardice and cannon further emphasizes the unfairness of the fight. And the parrot in stanza 6 could represent history books or the telling history in any way, basically because they are known for repeating things, which relates to the notion that history repeats itself. This then means that history books mocked both the Caribbeans and the conquistadors. And then here the end of the poem is slightly ambiguous, as it can mean that the parents mocking words are stuck like shadows, or that the words of the people being mocked are. If it is the latter, it would mean that the silence of people of color in history. But since the poet uses the poem to speak out against that, they now fix that problem, really. And that is it. Thank you for listening.